Skull and Bones is an open-world action-adventure game set in the Pirates era with boats, cannons, and treasures. The game will have a $70 price tag, and in this video I will give you a general consensus of if this game is worth that kind of money. Now, I first want to state that I actually only played the open beta of this game. I have not played the full release. Well, the full release hasn't released yet, but open beta most of the time is showing pretty much the full game. So I don't think I'm really missing out on waiting for the full game when I'm sure the open beta is 97% of the game, so, but just a little warning, this was only the open beta and not the full release. Okay, from the open beta, I can say that I actually quite found the game pretty fun. You first start off with a bunch of cutscenes kind of to get you immersed into the game and like the characters, but I'm not gonna lie, I was pressing every possible button on my keyboard to skip them. I personally didn't find them that enjoyable and sometimes a little cringe. But once you get past a lot of the cutscenes, you get put into the main hub area where other players are and where you will be buying, selling, and accepting contracts. Now, a big part of the gameplay was the contracts. You go up to NPCs and get contracts from them, which, if you don't know, contracts is just where you go up to an NPC and accept a task from them. Like, you have to kill an enemy ship, and in return you get some moolah. Contracts I found to be pretty fun, not very repetitive, which is good, but they also weren't the most unique either. But at least it didn't feel repetitive, which is a very important thing because the game, not gonna lie, seems like 60% contracts, maybe around there. At least the open beta felt like that. So the general gameplay rundown is you accept a contract, get on your boat, and you sail towards that contract. But along the way, a lot of the times I would get distracted by an enemy boat or enemy bases or just loot in the water like treasures and others such as like that. There's things like wood and rusted nails just chilling in the water, which are used for crafting items. You can also do things like customize your ship by changing its name. You can also change the color, add cool things onto it like spikes, and even buy fireworks for the ship, which I thought was pretty neat. A cool unique thing about this game is when editing your ship, you can add these furniture pieces that give unique stats to the ship, which can give you an advantage from other ships and make you more powerful and more special. So overall, I'd say I really enjoyed the customization that you can do for your ship to make it feel unique to other people's ships. Oh, and you can also add armor to your ship, which obviously makes it stronger, which is always fun, always cool. My favorite part about this game, and the main reason why I possibly see a $70 price tag in the first place, is because of how good and flawless it ran. Now, maybe other people had issues, but for me, I never ran into a bug, a glitch, or anything that bothered me throughout playing the game. The game looks pretty good. I wouldn't, it wasn't mind-blowingly amazing or anything, but I think the design on the ships and water, even little things like the sharks, look pretty solid, look pretty good to me, the textures. And I'd take that over a visually amazing game that runs like shit and glitches everywhere. Cyberpunk. Or, well, I should say old Cyberpunk, by the way. Cyberpunk now is actually a very great game. I enjoyed the option of being able to go into first person and third. And may I say, the first person view actually looked really good. Like how you have all the crew members on your ship, and if you have an animal, they sit right next to you while you are steering the ship. I personally found that really neat. Made it more fun to play the game, just because I didn't feel like I was a loser playing by myself. But next we have... So far throughout this review, I've only really said good things, but don't get it twisted. There are definitely cons. I mean, it's a Ubisoft game after all. So let's start off with the big one, the price. I mean, in the last year or even in the last week, we have had amazing games coming out for sometimes more than half the price of this game. I personally think 70 is just too much for this game. I think the $30 to $40 range would have been perfect, but it's Ubisoft, so. The gameplay loop might get boring pretty quickly. As I said earlier, the main thing you are doing is contracts, which is cool and all, but other than that, there isn't much to do, at least of my knowledge. You can plunder enemy bases, which from my understanding lets you attack them and get a reward such as money, but that's still pretty much a contract, like the same thing pretty much. So I don't know how they will keep the game refreshing for their devoted fans. And for the plunder, by the way, I think you can do it with friends, so maybe that's why it's more like not count as a contract, but I don't know. Now, obviously, ever since Skull and Bones has been announced, people have been saying that it's just going to be a Sea of Thieves copy. And, well, is it? I would definitely say they have similarities, but there's only so much you can do with a Pirates era kind of game. So I would say no. I think they have made a unique enough experience that it does feel like a whole different game. But if I'm being honest, I would still rather play Sea of Thieves than Skull and Bones, mainly because there's a lot more content and the game is only $40 compared to $70. But if you fully played Sea of Thieves and want a new Pirate Ocean game experience, then this is the game for you. Obviously, the real answer is it just depends. If you have completed Sea of Thieves and you're looking for something like it, but still new and refreshing, then I say go for it. I'd say this is probably for you and you would enjoy it. But if you have never played an open world pirate game and you just want to experience it for the first time, I would 100% go with Sea of Thieves. One, like I said earlier, it's $40 instead of 70, and it's been out for a way longer amount of time, so it has plenty more content than this game will ever have in probably the next like 5 years, if it's even around in 5 years, because it's a Ubisoft game. If I had to give the game a score rating out of 10, I also am factoring that it was the open beta and not the full release. But even with that into account, I'ma still give it probably a 6.4. It's not terrible, it's not bad, but it definitely, I think, lacks some content, and maybe more objectives to do. Now, maybe when they do the full release, maybe there'll be a bunch more stuff. Maybe the open beta, they just wanted to do contracts, just so then people would feel the game out. But to me, I don't think that's realistic. I think that is kind of just the full game is 90% contracts, or, well, I said earlier 60%, but honestly it might be more than that. Let me know if I'm just stupid and there is a lot more to do. I mean, there is like the story aspect, but the story to me was really boring and cringe. So that's the review. Peace, y'all.